It was started, my grandfather and his brother, I think they worked in a factory in Lurgan somewhere, I don't know where, and then they decided to start a factory of their own. This was their wee small farm. There was actually, there was a man had lived next door, he called him Bob Russell, and he actually built it. He could have showed you where he had marked 1920 onto one of the bricks. Started by my grandfather and his brother, and then my father, whenever he died, and my father took it over, and my mother worked with him in the factory. At one time there would have been about 20 stitchers, in the factory. I had an aunt, and the ladies' hankies were all what you call tore off. They were ripped. They were sort of split. They were all done. It was all done manually. The gents' hankies, they were put up and down a table and cut with a knife. I had an aunt that it was her done all that work. It started off with a wee old building, and then my father added different. He added this first, and then he added in there, and then he added. He's added bits to it. Well, that bit there was added in my time. I could do with renting some of it out. You don't need it was 20 in here, at one time, and now there's only 6. So whenever we would have been young, my father had a contract with a firm in England. You called them Robert McBride, and they supplied all the Woolworths stores with the hankies. Used to see the wee packets with 3 men's hankies and say P on them or whatever your initial was, and we got the cloth in, sewed up the hankies, and there was a man. He would have lifted the hanky, or we would have brought them down. He embroidered them, and then they come back to us. They were smooth. They were all stored. We had a store down the road, and they were all stored there till in around Christmas time. And then they all disappeared. The Robert McBride, they owned them. They owned but obviously my father must have got paid for them, but he kept them, and then they never really shifted on here. It was, you had a big store full of them, and then they would have, you had maybe been going down to Belfast every day with a van load down to their store down there. In my father's time, it all would have mostly come from Larne and Inver Bleach Works in Larne, and they came. But now my father always worked the same as I do, mostly as well. You get the material in and you cut it and make it and send it back. The lorry came maybe once, twice a week with material, and 90% of it would have been plain white, yes. Sometimes we would have done napkins, and they would have been different colours. We would have done them for other firms. Sometimes they would have been different colours, but 90%, more than 90% of the stuff we would have done would have been white. Would have done work for McCall Allen and Blaine's, in around Lurgan, and then he would have done work for a couple of big firms in Belfast as well. I'd say there's a lot of them. The linen ones, especially, would have went to probably America. He would have talked about that engine and one thing or another, and that the lighting was run off the engine as well. It was like a dynamo. Once you start the engine, it start the lights. They had no light in the house or anything. It was just they had this in the factory, and once the engine was turned off, there was no light. So at night time you were. And he said you would have had an awful trouble with you had to have this engine going in the morning. If it broke down or anything, there would have been a man. You called him Owen Lavery, and he would have come and he would have worked maybe all night to get the engine going. They only had the one. There was no spare, So there wasn't. So it had to be. It wasn't like your electric going off. It was a big thing. At that time, they were ruled by. If you weren't in time, you didn't get in. My grandpa would have shut the door, and that was it. People must have been sort of glad of the work at that time. I would be more flexible, because I find you get far better work out of girls if you give them a wee bit of leeway here and there. As long as you're getting your production at the end of the day, it doesn't. I don't mind really what to do. as long as the end of the day I see work on the, you know. I more or less started in here after I left school, and I've worked in here more or less ever since. We went to Diamond Cash School there, and whenever we would have come up in the evenings, we had so many. We would have done the turn off. My Aunt Rita would have had so many dozen ready for you to, you know, the ladies' hankies for the turn off, and you had your turn off to do before you got out to play. During school holidays, me and my brother would have made the hay and one thing and all, because my father was always mostly nearly in the, you know, he would have given us a hand in the evenings and one thing and all, but we'd have done hay and stuff like that there around the farm, you know, in the summertime. We would have worked in the factory as well, but it would have been more outside. Would have worked. Me and my brother there would still continue on the farming, you know. He comes on a Saturday there, you know. The workforce came from the local area mostly, you know. They wouldn't have came from any farther really than Lurgan, you know. Although one girl in our work, she's, you know, the Armagh road between Portadown and Armagh, she lives along it. But we normally would never really had anybody as far away as that. In my early days, there was a lot of the women from the local area who came on bicycles. Then my father, he always had like a van, and he would have picked girls up out of Lurgan. At that time, there would have been specific jobs, you know. Even now, we would have girls that would do lock stitching and girls that would do overlocking, you know. But they can, at the same time, the overlockers can lock stitch, and the lock stitchers can do a bit of overlocking, you know. That's what we found, that if one person came in, then maybe a sister would have came in. In fact, a lot of my father's aunts, and whenever I was young, a lot of my father's aunts worked in here. His aunts all done the fancy, you know, the wee fancy ladies' hankies, you know. They were just trained. They would have been brought in and just trained. One of them, we had a girl there. He called her F. McCrossy, but she's still knocking about, like, you know. But she doesn't work now. But she would have done. But normally, in my time, you know, anybody knew would have been. After would have trained them up. I started when I was 18. So don't know how many years ago that would have been. You know, I'm 57 now, so whatever. The handkerchief trade just. It's same as the clothing trade. It went foreign. People don't use hankies now. It's all paper hankies, you know. And I think that plus they could be made cheaper foreign, you know. Gradually died away. You know, it didn't just stop like that. It was over a length of time, you know. At the end of that time, my father had went into the sheets and pillowcases, you know. We had that, and then he had also started in a small way doing clothing, you know, but then the clothing got bigger and the hankies died out. And you see the hankies were all, even the sheets and pillows were all just hemming. And then when you came into garments, at the start, whenever we started into the garments, we started doing work for a man in Portadown. He had actually two factories on the go. It was a Star Manufacturing, you called it. That was over in Portadown. He got in touch with my father, and my father started in a small way doing. He couldn't cope with the, you know, and my father started doing a few shop coats and things for him, you know. It was just people asking you for different things, you know, or a better quality, you know. So we got, you know, improved patterns, and you see, it would have been all fail, you know the stitching you see on the side of a pair of jeans, you know, the double. Well, that's how everything was put together. At one stage, it was all sleeves were put in like that. There was no such thing as overlocking, but it was a slow process. So we improved patterns and got them all, you know, that could be all overlocked in, you know. There's a fella called Brian Carr. He worked with Johnson Allens and Lurgan. He got Brian to come out, and Brian done patterns for him, for boiler suits, shop coats, you know, different things, which were he was a good. This Brian Carr was more or less like a tailor, you know, and so he did all the patterns, and everything was made to, you know, to fit. Because we had been doing a bit of clothing, we had got a couple of girls in that had came from, you know, short background. they were able to teach other girls, you know, that's the way they were able to keep it. And then we actually, whenever the Star closed in Portadown, we got 3 or 4 girls out of the Star. When they had to buy new machinery, you know, waistband machines and things like that there, you know, and it was a different machine, different type of machine altogether to what would have been. You know, he would have been, he never was trained as a mechanic, but he was as good as a mechanic. Whenever I came in with Star into the garments, I was more into the cutting. I never really bothered not much with the machines. From having a factory full of hanky machines, it just went down. The garment end got bigger and bigger, on the hanky end got smaller. But then at that time, as I say, my father had actually started the sheets and pillows, so they were still going. He started as a firm in Penthouse Textiles, he called them. And they made, but it was the nylon sheets at that time he started on. And the nylon cloth came a bit wider than the sheet. So my father, he had this idea. He bought the bit that was left over off Penthouse Textiles. I think he actually was more or less given it, because it was too, you know, it was useless. The nylon came in a certain width and they had to bad in that width, you know. And he got in contact with a crowd of boys in Portadown. They were doing the markets. And he had maybe 4 or 5 girls sewing these panels together, and about 4 panels made a sheet. And there's a crowd, he called them, I think, young. They done the markets. They were poured down, and they'd done the markets, and they came every Friday. They came and they took a van load of these. And we didn't. My 2 sisters, they would have, after school at night, they would have folded these into half dozens, and that it was a real boon with women at that time, because before that, sheets would have been very expensive, and these old nylon sheets, they were getting them, you know. I know they were panels, but they're still a sheet. And they were, you know, so it sold very, very well. My father, he made plenty of cash out of that, but it was good, you know. Nylon was all, you know, but women were actually, you know, at that time, like, people would say, oh, you wouldn't use a nylon sheet, but at that time, people were glad of the nylon sheets, you know, because I even remember my own mother boiling flour bags and sewing them into sheets, and like, everybody would have done that. So the nylon was a great long lasting, and so he did do well out of those. I suppose it would have been fairly expensive, you know, because sheets at that time weren't as cheap as what they are now, you know. But then we did actually get into the polyester cotton ones at the end. But then, as I say, they modernised their factory, and then they done away with us, you know. So that was the end of the sheets, you know. After that, there was an English firm, and then the factories now, Hamilton's and Lurgan. they do like paper, and you see their vans going about, you know, blue vans, and that's their base now in Lurgan. It was the old Penthouse factory. Years ago, you had plenty of factories, you know, around Lurgan, so therefore there was plenty of stitchers. But now you couldn't get a stitcher in Lurgan, so they have been lost. Because the thing about it is, you'd get the same pay for working in Tesco's, but you get, you know, it's a skilled job, but because we're getting very little for the product, we can't afford to pay big wages, so therefore all the girls I have there are all pensioners. It's only a wee sideline for them, you know. It's a few extra pound every week, and that's just the way it has got. But I don't know where I would go to get stitchers. Factory life hasn't really changed that much. Just we haven't as many employees, you know. It's got harder to make a living out of it. There was a lot of work went on, and the 60s and 70s were the high time, you know, into the 80s were the high time, where there was a lot of work around. And even whenever we were in the clothing, if there was so many factories about, if you got a bit slack, you could ring somebody, and there's always somebody had access, and they would have. But now it's totally changed. Now it's nothing left. Just cutting and getting preparing stuff for the girls, and then I do the bookwork, and, you know, I basically do everything. Open up in the morning, turn the heat on, you know. I do everything, and you know, it has to be done, you know. It's what you'd call nurses' uniforms, but they're mostly for schools, you know, but they are a nurses' union. Actually, I'm actually doing nurses' uniforms at the moment, but they are actually for nurses. Then we were doing a good lot there for care homes there too, but it seems to have dried up a bit at the moment, unless this time of year they don't order much for care homes. But I've a lot of work on the pipeline, but nothing concrete at the moment, you know. It's all, at one time, it would have been all, that road that we moved down there, it was actually cotton. But the only thing I would use it for now is painter's trousers. It's all everything else is all polyester cotton. I call it 6 ounce and 7 ounce, but it's in grams, you know. Whenever I'm ordering it, I need to look up the grams, you know. But it's all polyester cotton. That's the material used now, you know. That there, that chessboard, as we call that chessboard, they're all free. That would be different baby aprons I make out of that there, and then that the white material and that, all those different colours material. They're mostly they would be for tunics, you know. But that all these funny, they're all aprons, all them different colours, you know. So they are. When they're pink, it's for, you would do some of that there for tunics as well, you know, but and then the darker colours would be more for boiler suits, shop coats and things like that there, you know. The biggest change was going from the hankies into protective clothing, you know. That was the change, you know. That was because we were totally hankies, you know, and it just, you know, it was either that or stop altogether, you know. We had to get into something, but lucky enough my father had already sort of started in a small way, but he was making no money at it because it was, but with the hankies he decided to stay at it, you know. So lucky enough he did, you know. That was in around the time I would have been going in, you know. But at that time it was very small and they were very slow, and, you know, like our girls just weren't used to that type of work, you know. And it was just at one time we were very busy, you know, and that would have probably been the highlight there, you know. It was, me and my father would both have been in it at that time, you know. But since I'm in it on my own, I suppose 20 years, and it just went down. And all that time, there hasn't been any real. Sometimes there, you know, you get a new customer and you're going well, but then at all, you know, there's no real continuity. I think whenever I quit, it'll quit, you know. Get a couple of houses, a couple of sites. I'll do that. I've had a good enough. Just could be doing with a bit more work now, but you know, I have enjoyed my time, you know, working in here. It is a nice, you know, it's a good, because you're creating something. So you are, you know, you're doing something new every day, and you're meeting different people. And no, I have enjoyed my time. I would like to continue at it, but I don't know what the future holds.